Hi, I'm Brantley, and I'd like to share with you some tips about preparing for choreography. Before we get started, I think it's important that we all agree upon a certain definition about what we believe cheerleading and choreography are. Cheerleading is the use of human bodies in visually appealing formations leading a crowd. It involves synchronized movement through time and space, and is comprised of stunts, tumbling, jumps, dance, and pyramids in an energetic performance. It is also a competitive sport. The process or product of creating living visual aesthetics through synchronized motion of the human body to energize and lead a crowd. One, know the rules. Being a rule book is always helpful to a choreographer. A choreographer is always trying to blend the grandeur of his vision into a specified level. So if you know those rules like the back of your hand, it's going to make the process way smoother. To get a complete listing of the rules, check out www.usasf.net. Team awareness in cheer is when the full team, each member, knows their role, knows who they are in relation to every other member on the team, but also knows where the team stands in relation to the nation or the world. So when you're you're competing in a division of 30 people or 30 other teams, then you have to know kind of where you lie, so you know which work you have to do when it comes time for preparing to compete. So with this team awareness, it's really important that the team practice on an actual cheer floor with lines and windows, because you start to get a sense of spatial awareness with each member that you're next to in your spacing. And if you don't have any sort of consistent patterning for you to line up off of, it can be very confusing, especially for beginning cheerleaders. 3, have a goal. It's really important to make sure that your team and you as a coach know the timeline. So set up a short-term amount of goals that will also enhance your long-term goal. For example, if the team wants to win nationals, then your short-term goals should be things like getting all your level skills, getting a good routine, making sure that everybody shows up at practice for the month, things like that. Setting up short-term goals that will then ultimately lead you to achieving your long-term goal. Technique, technique, technique. I believe that once the season ends from last year, you step into the gym ready to train technique, especially if you're moving up a level in a division. Your team needs to be confident in all of the basic level skills. So if you're moving your team from level 4 to level 5, your team needs to have all level 5 skills base. Because if you're trying to step into a national or world champion winning routine, you can't do that with only some members of your team having that level skill. It requires the full team. Also, when you're meeting with the choreographer, if you want your athletes to be confident and willing to try new things, they have to have their basics. So, don't focus on choreography prior to choreography. Build your technique. I know it's fun at practice to play with ideas, but in the end, build the technique. Pet peeve! There's nothing worse than walking in to do choreography for a team and having to water down every single section that you've created. Spent at least 8 hours working on in your mind. So excited, ready to share, but because a team doesn't have the basic technique in that level, you have to change all of the work that you've done. Build your technique so that when it comes time to learn with a choreographer, you're there to manifest newness, to get better, to enhance the basic technique with some flair. Technique camps are a great way to build strong technique, but also to build strong bonds between the athletes and the coaches. For more information about technique camps, check out www.varsity.com. Conditioning is essential for your team's success. So try to make it fun. If they have a goal in mind or an intention behind why they're conditioning, they're going to work a lot harder. and it's going to make the choreography way easier to master. Check out the ebook, Complete Cheerleading, by Justin Carrier and Donna McKay for a thorough list of muscle training techniques specific for cheerleaders. I think it's a great idea to expose your team to multiple styles of learning and ways of moving. So switch it up. Maybe bring in a guest teacher every now and then during the training period before choreography. That way, when your team takes the floor, they're bringing all of that experiential knowledge with them.
Woo! Music!
So, music is very important to your choreography. They go hand in hand. The music is something that enhances the routine. It takes not only the athletes, but the audience and the judges on a ride through an emotional sort of story. So if your music is just one tone the whole way through, your routine is going to be pretty boring. So you always want to make sure and ask what the choreographer's preference is when it comes to music. Some choreographers don't mind if you have a mix already ready. In fact, sometimes it's easier. So if you have that mix ready, go ahead and send it to your choreographer ASAP. But if you think that you really need something more custom, and for example, if you're choreographing a world's routine, every bit of that needs to be really detailed and combined smoothly. So maybe you need to ask the choreographer to work with you on the weekend of doing your music. So here are some things that are just specific to me that I like when I go to do a choreography job. It's always nice to be able to talk to an athlete by their name. So maybe on the first day, or at least for the first half of the day, give a little name tag. Put it somewhere where you can keep eye contact, but take a quick peek too. I think it makes for a better relationship between the athlete and the choreographer. Also, always have a coach present. Whether it's the head coach or assistant coach, someone who can kind of bounce ideas, or if the choreographer wants to know, hey, is this working, or what do you think about this, just to make sure that the process is going accordingly, coach should always be present. And finally, I always like to do a little bit of a Q&A. I think it's really important to get to know the people that I'm working with, because you're building a relationship and you're ultimately creating some beautiful art together. So I think knowing one another is very important.